I can't wait to get back on the road again. Back again. Dude, like for the baggers.
Back home again.
Back home again.
In
Indiana land.
Welcome to this episode of Dirtyard Dish. This is Brendan Dudas, the commissioner, president, founder. I don't know if I have any other titles for myself of Circle City Wiffle. I am joined by my co-host, the Studley, the number 2 player in the world, Will Smithey. Will, how are you, man?
Doing good. Ready for this cold weather to be gone so we can actually get into our season.
It's kind of nice. I mean, we're like 50 degrees now, so we're getting like the, what do we call it, fake spring? Mm-hmm. Is this fake spring?
I don't know.
Yeah,
we had that one really warm day like a month ago, and then it's been just bitterly cold since. So maybe we had like a 1 day fake spring, and we're just ready to go now.
That's always the teaser. So now we're getting our hopes up. We're ready to play some whiffs. Gertch and the content team is like grinding out content. Free agency's coming up, and is this a leap year?
No, last year was.
Oh, that's right. So 2 days, March 1st, free agency.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a lot going on. Will and I decided we need to come to you guys and get you a podcast episode to kind of break down the changes that are coming to Circle City Wiffle Ball in 2025. So a quick rundown of today's episode. We're going to break down the rule changes, kind of talk about why they happened, and then I think the big thing we want to talk about is how we think they're going to impact the league. Maybe the league as a whole, some teams. We don't know teams yet, I guess. So players and that type of stuff moving forward. But before we even begin, I want to shout out, this would be where we normally shout out our sponsors, but I want to dedicate this episode to Mike Speak, who is kind of the engine that makes Circle City Wiffle Ball run. He donates a ton of money, obviously donated the Dirtyard, built all of that, and we are all just incredibly grateful for Mike. So Mike, if you're listening, we love you. We're grateful for you. You are a legend, and I hope truly that last year wasn't your final year and that you come out and make a few more appearances at the Dirtyard.
Yes, sir.
We ready to go? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So first things first, we've got the boring stuff. Let's get that out of the way. We got our 2 bye weeks. Wednesday Night Wiffle number 5, which is July 4th week, and then Wednesday Night Wiffle number 8, which is the week after NWLA. Some of the pros, I think this allows teams to recover, avoid some conflict with July 4th and NWLA. But cons, and you and I were talking about this, I think players often think of bye weeks in terms of a 1-week break, and in effect, we already have a 1-week break. It's a 2-week layoff. What does that do to you as a player and to the teams as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, especially like the first one going to be mid-season. That's like we're just starting up in June with the fast pitch. You're playing 3-4 Wednesdays, and then you're going to get that 2-week bye. I could definitely see it hurting guys just getting caught up to kind of seeing the velo again coming out of the slow pitch season and almost having to take a step back. Maybe you feel like you're just now starting to see the ball well. Boom, you're going to have to take that 2-week break, step back, and get those eyes readjusted. I mean, for me personally, like an off week is usually just another week to go out and kind of just try something new or try to get some stuff working for the season, whether they're not jumping off right away. But for a lot of guys, it's just something that it's just going to make them a little bit more rusty, I guess. I mean, it's just one of those things.
I agree, and honestly, as a hitter, I feel like pitchers have never suffered from bye weeks. They come back and they're still filling it up. They're fresh. It's the hitters. Like, as a hitter, I need to be playing every week. I'd love to play twice a week as a hitter. I understand why it's not doable for pitchers. But if I take 2 weeks off, now I come back and Mike Whitty's 105 looks like 205. So I'm with you. I think momentum-wise hurts the hitters, but pitchers, they're good. They'll always be fine.
Yeah, I mean, once we went to those expanded rosters and like the full 4-man lineups too, like you're not getting 7, 8, 9 at bats a game anymore like we were a few years ago. You're getting 3 to 5 if you have a good offensive day. So having
absolutely.
that 2-week break, really, when you hit that first bye week, you may only have 20 at bats under your sleeve, like fast pitched right there. So that's going to be tough.
100%. And speaking about at-bats and innings pitched, we're moving on to the next rule. The next adjustment we made was in terms of player eligibility. So last year we allowed anybody, basically if you showed up to the park and you could field or you could pinch run, and that would count as eligibility. We've changed that now. You have to record an official stat. So 1AB, 1/3 of an inning pitched. And it kind of takes away from maybe some of those loopholes, maybe, cough Rudy. But other than that, and I don't know if that there was any ill intent with it, it just makes it much easier for us to track who is eligible, who has played, and whatnot. Do you think it impacts strategy at all?
No, I don't really. I think, I mean, we're a wiffle ball league. It's for fun. If guys show up, they should be getting at bats. They should be hitting anyway, unless they're actually like hurt or something like that. But at that point, like, they want to be hitting or playing. They shouldn't be fielding anyway or running. It's just going to make it a lot easier to be sure that the guys are eligible. Our eligibility rule is very simple. You just got to play in over half the games. If a whole day gets rained out, your games limit's going to drop. That's for the whole league. So it's not something that's hard to do. You know, we play 15 games. Basically, you're just asking guys to get out there 4 times. For doubleheaders, it's 8 games, 8 at-bats on the year. If they have to do the minimum, I don't think it's hard to reach anyway.
It takes a really rare player that wants to come out and just do defense or just run. And I think, like, if you think about James Hayworth, that's the perfect role for him. But it just makes it easier on us to be able to track.
Yeah, it's impossible to track if the guy fielded because we don't do fielding stats. So.
Right. Moving on to the next one, we're going to try to rapid fire these. All games have been shortened to 5 innings. We previously played 6. I cracked up at this rule because they asked what, like at the table where our meeting was, why do we play 6 innings? And I was like, to be honest, I made these rules up when I was 12 years old, like as a middle schooler when I first started Indy Southside Wiffle Ball. It's probably something NWLA did at the time, and I was like, that's just what we stuck with. So 5 innings. I think the first question, will this speed up games, is yes, obviously, but what do you think it does to the urgency of offenses and maybe like the pace of pitching?
Yeah, I mean, I think pitching wise, if anything, I think it'll lower the games for our good arms. You can't really wear down a pitcher going five innings instead of 6.
Yeah.
But to be honest, with our Wednesday night wiffle and like the time limits on the fields, we were rarely finishing 6, even 5 innings in games last year. So I don't necessarily think the games are going to be sped up more. I just think you might see a couple more completed games or games that actually get like through the 4th inning. We'll see this a lot more come playoffs if teams are taking anything different in the 5th inning compared to like the 6th inning. But for the regular season, I don't think it's going to have too much impact on anything. Maybe keep the arms just slightly more fresh. But like I said, with the time limit and playing all the games on Wednesdays, we were rarely finishing 6 or 5 innings, I feel like.
And that's a perfect lead in to the next alteration that we've made, which is as soon as it strikes 6 o'clock on Wednesday nights, that game timer for the first games is going to kick on. And this was a change we made. I always felt really bad for the final teams playing who were having the second game on the graveyard field would oftentimes have to finish under the dark, and then B, the third game that was on the Dirtyard. I mean, you'd be out there till 11 o'clock. So I think this paired with the 5 inning limit is just going to help us avoid the late nights at the Dirtyard, which in turn keeps bodies fresh, it keeps guys more interested, and I think it'll lessen burnout. So the next rule is one I think you're gonna love. It's one that you've been pushing for a while. If correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But our extra inning rule. So once we go into extras, we're gonna play 1 clean inning, and then for innings 7 through 9, we're gonna put a runner on second base, and then starting in the 10th inning and later, which sounds crazy, but we've done it a handful of times, we're going to go bases loaded. What do you think about this? Why did you want to push for this so hard?
Yeah, I mean, and just so people know, this is just for our playoffs. In the regular season, we're still going to do our jack-offs when there's a tie game after 5. But in playoffs, we weren't doing anything other than a guy on second in, I think, the 10th inning, maybe even the 12th inning. It was And for us, our pitches were getting just so good, and with the skinny barrels and the clean balls, it's extremely, extremely hard to just run into a homer, when especially we have 5 or 6 guys in our league out there throwing, low to mid 90s at a minimum. It's very hard to hit. A lot of guys that, they're not out there to be as competitive as some of us that kind of travel the national scales, things like that. So it's one of those things that there's just no reason we should be playing 16 inning games. That's not good for anybody. I mean, we've had guys, we played a extra inning game for the regular season a few years ago, just ruined Junior's arm. It was like a 13 inning game week 1. At least we don't have that in the regular season. But playoff wise, there's just no need for us to go that long if we can try to implement some rules to stop it.
I agree, and like you said, it's just some of these games, our arms have gotten so good they can go on forever, like in the perfect environment, and you hate a team to lose just because a dude gets hurt or runs out of gas. So try to speed things along and keep things moving, and then it adds some crazy strategy down the road too.
Yeah, and I mean, it also, like, just having guys on base is going to make just getting the ball in play even matter. So for us, if nobody's on base for so long, guys are just hoping to hit a homer, and then we're not seeing anybody do anything for 12 innings. Just having a guy on base in that 7th inning, just one backside dribbler can score a run and be a change.
That's a great point. Yeah, now a ground ball becomes a big play, as opposed to needing a ball off the wall or needing a home run. Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, ready for next section? Mm-hmm. Okay, going in. This is some boring stuff. Maybe not so much the first one. Game 3 of all of our 3-game series throughout the regular season, we're going to have home and away get decided by the run differential in the first 2 games of that series. And this is just something we looked at and we realized we had no way of deciding who home and away was in that last game. So, a policy, a standard procedure to keep things moving smoothly. So, secondly, we're adding that safety bag to the first base side. It catches some flack in the MLB. I know, like, it could be seen as soft, but I think it's like even more pronounced and needed in wiffle ball. And the guys I think of are like Reed and Mike, who hit those ground balls to the right side and are flying down the line. And there's always that bang bang play there. So this is going to give just a little more surface area for the fielder to touch one side and the runner to touch another, and hopefully avoid the situations where we got guys jumping over each other. And then lastly, the one I want to get your opinion on is we're going to push to add a second All-Star game. And I don't know the future of our charity one, but we're going to look to add a competitive All-Star game in which you have to earn your spot on. And maybe 2 rosters of 6 will go at it on a Friday night, and then we'll go out to dinner afterwards, get some drinks, and have a good night. What are your thoughts on the All-Star game? Do you think it's something somebody will, our players in the league will care about getting into? Will it be an accolade that matters to people?
I think so. I mean, and I also think that'd be just a really good one, too. It's going to give a lot of people the chance to play with guys that they can't because of our value system, too, even if it's just for a one-night thing. I think it'd be a lot of fun, especially if you have like you said, 6-man. As long as you get, I'd say, at least 6 pitchers. Say, I don't know how many innings. We could do a full 6 or 9 inning. It just depends on what guys want to do. But have each guy, throw a couple innings. Nobody needs to be still going out there throwing all 6 or something. But it would be something that I think would be very competitive. I think it would get very heated. I'd probably do a draft style, have top 2 value guys or something, do a draft or something like that, and just go from there.
And put something on the line, right? Throw some cash around or whatever. Dinner. Maybe we do make that tradition and we go out to dinner afterwards and the losing team has to buy dinner for the group.
Yeah, so something like that. They split it. Something like that could be pretty good.
I love the point you made about, playing with guys that you don't get to play with. And as a 10 value guy myself, like, I'll never run into that issue anymore. But like, I think about you and Reed and Rudy and Mike and how you guys will never share a roster with each other, rightly so. Like, I don't, that would be game breakers, but that's a really good point.
Yeah, I mean, and even like you say some of those guys, but like a guy like Mitch, I've become great friends with Mitch Bias through this league and stuff, and he's always just been too good of a pitcher for me to ever even have as a number 2 or 3 guy on the team. So just like,
I was about to say,
like that just would be awesome.
It shocked me. Yeah, we sent out like that availability or the interest sheet, and it shocked me at first. You immediately went not interested in like the top 12 guys, and then I realized like
I can't even sign them.
Fit on your
so
roster.
I would have put interested on all of them, but like Aiden's another guy that I've talked to several times. We'd love to play together. It's never happened.
Right, and it never will. Especially Aiden's found himself now.
Yeah,
so
I think we did like a draft day cut ball one day, and I took Aiden first pick just so I could play with him.
Yep. Okay. We're going to move into the huge ones. I think these next couple of rules are going to like change. This is what you would call change the fabric of the league, and really kind of adjust like the run score, the competitiveness, the number of players who carry value on the field. So the first big one is we are instilling another inning limit for our pitchers. And the rule, which is mainly something you came up with, was that pitchers can only throw 5 innings against each team or 1 complete game against that team. And that's important because like in a game that ends early due to a run rule, time limit, any case, like, or maybe you don't have to come out and pitch the bottom of the fifth, right? So you get a dub with 4 innings pitched. Either one of those things counts, and you can no longer pitch against the team again. I think, this stops guys from getting all of their pitching appearances against one team. And on the other side of the coin, stops a team from having to see the same guy. Like if they get unlucky and it's like, damn, we got to see Mike Whitty 3 times this year.
Yeah.
What was kind of your thought process and suggesting this rule change, and what effect do you think it's going to have on team construction?
The biggest effect was obviously our hitting was way down last year as a whole. Everybody was hitting much less, but because of the innings limits we had and not finishing games, aces were able to throw way more than what I felt like they usually could throw compared to like the amount of innings available. So this was just a way to kind of limit the aces from what you said, throwing 2 or 3 times against a team. And then another reason is hitting is down because we have so many pitchers. We have a lot of good pitchers in our league right now. Everybody needed at least 2 last year, and a lot of teams had 3, sometimes even 4 guys that could go out and throw a full game. So I think this will now allow, at a minimum, 18 guys to throw innings this year. And I expect to see probably 20 to 25 guys throwing innings that actually are like meaningful, impactful innings for their team. And it's wiffle ball. I think part of pitching it is fun, being able to throw and get the ball to do things. So why not try to get more people into that? In a sense, you're going to increase your hitting because you're going to have a lot of newer guys throwing, but it's kind of a balance, and I think that'll end up evening it out when guys get better at pitching.
Right, and you mentioned the pure numbers of guys that are going to get viable innings. We had literally 23 total players even touch the rubber last year, and of those 23, only 15 threw in double-digit innings. So, like you said, every team has to have 3 starting pitchers, and now all of a sudden it becomes a game of like, can I build depth? I was texting Dalton Lewis the other night, who was kind of on the fence about playing, and I'm like, D. Louie, you are all of a sudden like one of the most valuable free agents on this list because you're a 1, and you're going to give good innings in that number 3 as opposed to like hell throwing me out there.
Yeah.
So it's like I think it changes the entire free agent landscape too, not just the season play.
Yeah, and I think it's going to there's a lot of guys in the league that I feel like can throw but don't throw because they don't feel like they're good enough. And like I feel like you're one of those guys. With a wiffle ball league, you should definitely be throwing, at least 2 to 3 innings against every team, I feel like, in a series. Right. I don't feel like that's something that's uncalled for. But in years past, you just never needed to do that because you've had 2 or 3 guys. Or like Cade last year, having Mitch and D. Louie and Holden. Cade never really had to pitch unless somebody just didn't show up. But on a year like now Cade can start working in more pitches and just getting himself better because he can also be another guy that can throw good innings in this league.
Yep. And then just to close this out, just looking at there are 9 players who threw over 25 innings because, in effect, this is a 25-inning limit, right? Sprinkle had the lowest of that group with 27, and then Whitty with 85. So you have to think all of those innings are now going to get sliced off and thrown somewhere else, and somebody has to pick them up. So it could lead to some control issues, and I give props to the board because on the fly we kind of thought up this rule right here, which is our new slow pitch rule. So at any point in a 0-strike count, so that can be pre-at-bat, that can be during the at-bat, maybe 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, the pitcher can choose to skip to ball 5. Okay? If he does it before the at-bat, the hitter has to hit. If he does it during the at-bat, the hitter can choose to take his walk. And I think this seems like a small rule, man, but this is huge. And I just think there are times when you get out there and there's a guy trying to throw too much and do too much, and he ends up walking the world, and it turns into a walk parade. So now we can cut the crap. We can skip right to the slow pitch, and maybe that third arm who has a dirty slow pitch finds a new way to be valuable. What do you think this does to at-bats? I want you to use your hitter mind on this because I doubt you're going to skip very often.
Yeah.
So as a hitter, guys might choose to skip this and get to the slow pitch on you. What do you think this does?
Hitting wise, depending on how it is going from game to game, just like changing your eyes to go from fast to slow pitch, kind of within this, you don't have to keep throwing the same pitch we decided anymore for slow pitch. It just has to be within the mile per hour limit, which the board's going to go out there and kind of figure that out. So it's just going to be something that I feel like you still need to be locked in as a hitter, maybe almost more so locked in because you have the chance of seeing some more stuff and you're going to feel way worse if you don't hit the slow pitch compared to if you don't hit the fast pitch.
That's true. So that, and you mentioned that you just dropped that, like, so we've decided, we've thrown away the rule. Previously, hitters could be like, no, just you have to throw the slider, you have to throw the drop or whatever, and you couldn't switch. So we've thrown that away. You can switch up pitches. We'll have a radar gun standing there, and we're going to go out there, kind of test some speeds. I think we've stuck with 35 in the past, but we'll see. And we're also going to test a modified strike zone for those slow pitch ABs, which might be something like lower to the ground, maybe angled. And the pitcher that comes to mind for creating that rule is Reed Warner, because of his ability to like release really high and hit the top of the zone, and it's never a strike for anybody that's not 6'5". So big time rule change. I think it's going to be something that all of these rules, like these pitching rules, are going to, I think inject some life into offenses, but then it's going to get guys a chance to go prove themselves on the bump and get better. And I think the experience in innings pitched is what we truly need, which you don't really get in a bullpen. Right?
Yeah, and the games are so short. Yeah, you're not bringing in relievers, different things like that for wiffle ball. A lot of it's like, hey, this is your game. Go see what you can have this night. So having to have 3, you might be able to do a little bit more if you know a guy can only go 2 innings, but he only has to do that 3 different times against that team. You can always have a guy coming in after, stuff like that. So I think the strategy with the pitching with that will be a little bit better. And then, just throwing the different slow pitches all the time. I mean, just having to throw the same one, whatever you showed them, and having to keep throwing it, eventually that hitter's just going to hit that every time. At least being able to throw different slow pitches, I think, will help guys who can't maybe even reach the board from the far distance fast pitch. Just coming up and throwing different slow pitches up close is going to be helpful.
Yeah, and you mentioned like we don't typically have like closer roles. The inning limit might lead to that. Like we kind of brought up the point, like, okay, I could just plan for all my pitchers to go 2-2-1 every game, and that's what we're gonna do against every team. So if I've got Sprink and Buck or whoever, like you're gonna see 2 of Sprink, 2 of Buck, and then you're gonna get Dudas out of the pen for his one fresh inning that he's notorious for. So just kind of thinking about those things and how. I think there could be layers of strategy this year that we have not seen in years past. Yeah,
I mean, I'll give you one for myself. Let's say we're up, 7 or 8, and I have 1 inning left. Well, we're not going to run rule them. Why don't I see if I can get somebody else in there in case I need to save a game versus this team later? As long as they don't blow 7 or 8. And because of our rule, I can always, re-enter myself if it gets too close. Stuff like that can play in too. Now I can be a starter and a closer versus this team because I don't hit that innings limit, but we're still getting guys in.
And offensively, if you're through the top of the third, right, and you're on the bump, and all of a sudden your team is putting up a bunch of runs and has a chance to run rule, like you might be, well, I don't want to waste Will Smithey with only 3 innings pitched because if we run rule this, it counts as a complete game. So maybe we make a point to get out of this and go back out to the top of the 4th so we can put a different pitcher in. So that's it's I think it's gonna be really fun. I love when things happen like that offer up different strategies. Okay, now we're getting this. So that's the league changing stuff right there. That's the stuff that's
the big one right there. Needing to have really at least 3 guys on a team to pitch. That's the big one.
Okay, now we'll talk about waivers, and we'll finish with free agency, both of which have been semi-overhauled. So the waiver process will now be, so at any point that a waiver claim is made, the team with the lowest team value will get priority, right? So going into week 2 and your team's just stinking it up, and all your players have a low hitter and pitcher value, that team would be given priority to claim a player. The thing that has been added in is when that player gets added, the team then must cut a player from the roster and pass him through. So like DFA him or whatever. And every other team gets a chance to add that player. So when you cut that player, I think we decided he's got to be from like the tier down. So if you try to add a player of 25 value, you've got to cut a guy of at least 10 value, and then 10 to 5 and 5 to 1 and so on and so forth. So you can't just go add a stud and then drop Josh Hart. Sorry to catch you in some crossfire, Josh, but we won't let that happen. If that player that you cut to make room passes through and gets back to your roster, you then unlock a 7th roster spot. Okay, so you take the risk. You've got to pass him through waivers, and you're like, oh, I hope he gets back to me. If he makes it back to you, you get a 7th roster spot, and you get to keep all those players. So rosters in CCW this year will be minimum 6, and then that 7th magical kind of unlocked spot, but never anything more than that. What do you think? I know we've got some like potential waivers kind of we've been talking about in the board. What do you think the hardest part about this system is going to be? Like, I want you to think down your potential roster. Are you going to have the ability to look at a guy and say, "Hey, sorry, I'm cutting you. I got to pick a dude up"? Are people going to be able to do that? Do you think we'll see some more roster movement this year?
I think having to cut a guy is really hard.
It's so tough.
Like, we're signing guys each year. We're getting them jerseys. I think that'd be hard. I think if we had like a team store where everybody kept the same jerseys every year, I think it would be easier to cut a guy. Because like he just paid for this Moonshots jersey, he's got it all set up, and we're halfway through. So he's already done the whole slow pitch season, and now we're like July 4th weekend. He's out on a boat with his family. I'm like, hey man, I gotta cut you. It's wiffle ball, but I gotta cut you. I don't know. And like for me, like after me, it's usually tier wise. We talked about like I probably won't have the chance to pick up a high tier guy, and if I do, like, you think I'm gonna cut like Tyler Gregory, who's been like one of my best men in like the league the whole time? Like,
that's what I was gonna ask.
Like a low guy, it's like I don't know. For me, I don't know if I can be able to do it.
Let's say Speak Jr. feels better and he wants to come back, and you guys are the lowest value, right?
Yeah.
Are you gonna cut Tyler Gregory to make room for a Speak Jr. who's been off for 3 years? It seems like a no-brainer, but at the same time, you got to remember the relationships out there, right?
The relationships would be tough with that too.
It's a huge aspect. That's what I've loved so much about free agency is that like, dudes have been semi-willing to go wherever, but then B, like relationships and duos start forming. So you almost know, like if I sign one dude, the other guy's coming with him.
Yeah.
Or I know, like prior to free agency, like I'm not even going to talk to T. Greg. I think I put not interested on his thing. Like he's going to Will. That's just how it's going to be. So I think that's really exciting. Here's a question: do you think it would be so? You just got cut, right? Is that more demoralizing, or would it be more demoralizing to pass all the way through waivers, nobody claim you, and get back on that team that just cut you?
I think I feel like the waivers, because like passing through teams, because if your team cuts you, it's at least a guy whose value is already higher than you. Because
there's one guy,
and it's just one guy, and he's like, and at that point you're probably looking at your own team, and you're thinking, why me? But then it's like, because if I have to add him because of the value, you can, as a coach, you can almost scapegoat it. But like passing through all the other teams through it, it's that's where it's like, man, do they really like that guy more than me? They really like him more. So it's like, that's where it gets brutal. And then once you get back to your team, the coach is now
you're the seventh man.
Now the coach is like, I never wanted to cut you anyway. Well, you did. So it's like,
oh my God. Okay, so we have potentially just added some ridiculous opportunity for beef in CCW. Okay, so moving on. So waivers, that's a big change that we're making, and it should be a lot of fun. It should be really interesting. But now we are progressing. We are on free agency eve. Well, I guess we get wave 1 tomorrow, which we'll talk about. So free agency has been overhauled. Values are out. All of that stuff remains the same. We've got the salary cap. We've got the similar way to construct teams. What we've changed this year is that players are going to be kind of released or put on the block in waves, right? Because what I found, and this was, I kind of took the lead on this, and it was just something I was thinking of. What I found was like free agency would start, and all of a sudden certain coaches would be like, oh my God, like these 15 guys signed and they didn't even text me back. Like I didn't even hear anything about them. Now what do I do? My team is, I can't build a team. And this happened last year with the Stampede, and luckily we were able to step in and kind of mediate it and come to a conclusion. But what I want to avoid that at all costs and create like a true transparent process where every coach can be involved. So like I said, everybody's going to be released in waves of like 3 to 5 players. And those 3 to 5 players will be forced to sign either that day or by the end of the next wave, which is the second day. And so there will only ever be probably 6 to 10 players on the block at once, and they've got to sign. And I think what this does is it fulfills my vision of this being like dominoes, right? So the Mike Whitty domino, he's in a wave all by himself. He's going to kick things off tomorrow night at 5 p.m. And that domino falling is what starts the rest of free agency. And what would kind of muck things up is like some of those big dominoes would wait a long time, and teams couldn't really build what they wanted to. So I want to know your opinion on this. So we've already decided all the ones are going to go last. So that's your time to shine because you get a 10, you get a 5, and then the rest ones, right?
Rest ones, yeah.
Okay. So I'm trying to think how to word this. Like, is this something that are you kind of sitting back waiting and seeing how the other teams are constructing their rosters and then you're going to react accordingly, or do you have a plan that you're going to attack regardless?
I'm gonna have a plan I'm gonna attack. I feel like each coach is probably looking at them and they're going to have at least a guy or two in mind at each of their spots. Like with the 5s and 1s, they probably have a guy or two that they're like, I really want him, kind of regardless. Now, those might change for some of the teams that can get, like Whitty or Aiden or Mitch. Some of those teams might change their 5s and 1s depending on who they get, whether they need maybe more pitcher, more hitter. But for me, like, as we talked about, like my 10, I'm going to go sign T. Greg. I'd be shocked if he signs anybody else. And then from then on out, like I kind of know what I need from there. I'm going to need probably somebody who can throw. I'm still going to need a hitter. I'm probably going to need one other guy who can field pretty well. And then somebody who I'm at least another pitcher. Obviously, I really need 2 pitchers after that, after T. Greg signing, something like that. So I'm going to focus on certain guys and go after them. Now, it could change. It could move around. Looking at other teams, I may get an idea of who I feel like they should try to go for. Maybe yin and yang type stuff or whatever. So we'll see.
That's a good point. And then I guess I'm always an optimist with this type of stuff. My thinking is like, I really hope every guy has a handful of coaches reaching out to them. And now they're dealing with the clock. It's like, they can't sit there and wait to see who you sign. It's like, Will, who are you going to sign? Who are you going to? And I'm like, I don't know. You have to decide first, right? Yeah. And so it's something, I think it prevents a little bit of guys just blocking up and all going to one team at once, and it gets a little harder. It adds some complications to things, but at the same time allows coaches to kind of go step by step down the line, and I think it'll make things really interesting.
Yeah, and also like each coach, like each of us are doing like different like actual real world jobs. So in past when free agency drops, I work from home. I can be on my phone talking to guys right away. But you'd have a guy like Jones who he can't be talking to anybody. Like so having the wave too releasing where everybody kind of have to go in, I feel like it makes a more equal playing field for coaches to actually get their word in and get some guys signed. So I think that'll be a bonus as well. And like you said, guys waiting, you're not going to be able to wait and then muddy stuff up. I think each of the last years we've had guys where we've had to put on teams who've then been over the salary cap just because they waited too long. They didn't sign, and other people are like, hey, I need to get guys. I'm signing them. So
right. And I think what I'll do is like the waves won't all be like, I'm not going to release all the studs in wave 2 on Saturday, right? I think it'll be like 1 or 2 of those studs, and then 1 or 2 of the 10s, and then 1 or 2 of the 5s. So then, like, if you miss out on a guy, you think you're in on Sawyer Mitchell, and he goes a different direction, now you can pivot, and you can go back to the sheet, look at wave 3, and then come up with a new plan, rather than it just being this avalanche of, damn it, like, I missed out on this whole group of guys, and now I've got this team, I don't even know what I'm doing. So, I agree. I don't think you can ever make it equal completely, but we'll make it equitable, right? Like where like everybody at least gets the same chances to reach out to players, and the players know they're on the block, and it creates some like demand for them. So we'll see.
Definitely.
Do you have any closing thoughts on any of the rules? Anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, as far as people that have followed Circle City, I know last year we're still keeping the slow pitch spring season, our fast pitch clean summer season. We're still going to try to do the cup ball again at the end. Last year the cup ball didn't work out as well with NWA being so late, so we're going to maybe try to make that a little better. But overall, we're still kind of doing the same league that we've done last year. We thought that was a great success, and I think just adding these new rules, we're just trying to get as many guys to feel like they're a part of something and doing their best for each team as possible. I think these rules are going to help with that a lot.
That's a great way to put it. I mean, honestly, it's just we're to the point now where it's kind of we tinker with things each off season, and then we realize just lifting some of those bottom guys up and giving them the chance to provide value in some way is going to be huge. Okay, let's go. Let's talk what's next. So tomorrow night, 5 p.m., Mike Whitty is supposedly going to drop a video or some type of post where he announces where he's going rumors so far, I being a direct source, I've heard Stampede is out. Cade kind of realizes that you sign Mike Whitty, it becomes really hard to then go fill out a roster. So I think it's between the Short Shorts and the Hounds. Mm-hmm. All signs point toward him, going back to the Hounds, but we'll see. I have put in an offer. Like I'll just say that. I've made my offer to Mike. I've made it known that I would really like to have him. And then I'd have to go have some conversations with some guys that I've kind of told I want to run it back with and tell them, hey, Mike Whitty became available and things changed. I'm sorry. So going to that, then we got free agency coming. Player rankings are on the way. We'll do our top 40 for 2025 again, which we did last time back in 2023. Mm-hmm. And then before we close this out, some guys got in the chat and dropped some questions for us. So we're just going to run down here. Ian Garavelli actually gave us some really good ones. So who could potentially be the biggest landscape-changing player to change teams? Let's take Mike Whitty out of that. Mm-hmm. Who do you think? Biggest landscape-changing player to change teams?
First one that comes to mind for me is Aulis. Aulis isn't going to be able to go back to the 8 balls value-wise. And Aulis's value, I don't think his value will ever be lower than it is this year because he is figuring out pitching. Last year was his first full year pitching. Little hiccups with some accuracy, things like that, but he's works hard. He's going to figure it out. His value is going to jump up a lot. So whoever gets him is going to get probably could be the best number 2 arm, if not the best number 2, right up there with him, as well as being probably the best first or second bat on your team. He's going to be the biggest game changer, I think, whoever gets him.
That's a good one. That's the obvious answer. And you went right to the guy that cannot even go back to his own team.
Yeah, he's going to have to change teams.
Yeah, going down the line here, Nick Bundy. I think there's no way he's going to return. He can't, actually, now looking at it. He will not be able to return to the Hounds, and he was... Dude, he was their MVP.
Well, given the Whitty signs with the Hounds, he can't return, I guess.
He was that's true. So he was their MVP in the Classic. So I think he goes to a team. He's going to go to a team with 2 stud pitchers and has a real chance to be their best offensive piece and could change the game for them. So Alice and Bundy there. So as an owner, next question, we're going to try to fly through these, see if we can keep this under 45 minutes. As an owner, what is your biggest criteria when going after your first free agent signing? What do you think yours is?
When I'm going after my first free agent signing,
just try to give me one word. Right? You spend the valuable cap space on a guy, and all of a sudden things change. I was about to say, anybody's fault. I think mine is really availability. My homework and I've been burned a few times just by signing a big time guy that hasn't been able to get out before Aiden figured himself out. Right?
Yeah.
Availability.
You struggled with availability.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and for me, like the T. Greg, like that's all I can think of. But when I think about like why I want T. Greg, it's like for me, I need one. He's one of the best fielders there is on the left side. So
that value is not properly valued, right? That's not reflected in his cap.
Yeah, and then like he's the clutch factor for T. Greg. It's like everybody looks at his stat line and they're like, oh, how is he only a 10 hitter? But then if you looked at his value after I'm intentionally walked, he'd be a 50 grade hitter. It's insane. So it's stuff like that, just having him right with me on that, just knowing that like he's going to be there in the clutch situations, which is how we've won several Dirtyard Classics. I think that's kind of what it is. Like why T. Greg is like just the first one for me.
That's a good point. Just some guys have the dog in them, and that dog goes a long way when it comes down to it. When you're in a 0-0 battle with Whitty or Reed or whoever. Does Long Drink still sponsor the league? Yes. And I reach out. I think it's Kelly. Reach out to Kelly, and I get product from time to time. Favorite annual wiffle ball tournament to play in?
Yeah, for me, that's UWIFs. It's next level. It's such a great weekend. We were able to get Aiden out there this year. I feel like he felt the same way about it, playing with that Blue Jays team that picked him up. I'd love if we could get at least 2 CCW teams for it. I think we definitely got the talent to get 2, maybe 3 teams to elimination in that tournament. We have so many arms now. We just got to keep working at the cup ball. But that weekend is just so much fun.
That's probably the best wiffle ball tournament. I still think my favorite is NWLA, and it just comes from a point of like, dude, when I built this league, I was obsessed with making it into the NWLA to start, right? applying and getting accepted, and then someday winning that damn tournament and showing them that I could build a league that was good enough to win it. And we've got a few of those now, and it just feels so good. But like the relationships there, it's a very tight knit community. I love the play style. I love that you still have to run bags and go field the ball, and it helps that we've had some success as of late. So
yeah. There's really not a bad wiffle ball tournament. I've never had a bad weekend playing wiffle ball, especially
that is a great point.
Those are my favorite weekends every year. Those two, Hometown Cup, I'm putting those three on my calendar every year, and I'm just doing everything I can to make it to at least those three tournaments because they're just the best weekends.
A bad day on the wiffle ball field beats a good day in the office, man. Every day. Jorf Porsan, our CCW insider, asks me, have I been letting my light shine bright this school year? I have, man. I have turned it on. I don't know what's going on. I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning. Like I'm just hyper fixated on being super productive, and I feel like it's had a good impact on everything around me. So, how about you, Will? Has your light been shining bright?
I think so. I mean, I've been getting up, working out in the mornings before work on like past.
He's still lifting.
Yeah, I'm still lifting. Full year and a half. I've been doing it, so I've been proud of myself for that. Got a baby on the way, so excited about that. So I can't really complain about anything.
Have you announced that on social media, or did you just drop that right now?
I'm sure Lindsay's posted something. My social media page is roughly wiffle ball. So
do I have to go check? Does this
I know she's posted on like Facebook or something like that. So I don't think I've officially posted anything, but I mean it's.
Hey everybody, Will's having a baby. Or I guess his wife. She's posted.
Yeah, I know she.
Oh, posted, that's right. So, yeah, there was a big post. Okay, December 21st it was announced. Okay.
Baby's due in June.
Just had to make sure.
June, so summer baby, right in the heart of football season.
I'm sure that won't bring up any issues with you guys.
Nah, it'll be good. She's got plenty of time off. We'll be all set.
What are the odds we see 107 on the gun this year? High or low? Just say it. 107?
Higher
That's
is
low.
Tough to ask. I gotta say low just because I don't think you can actually get higher. Also, there's got to be a lot of adrenaline pumping to get it. I know Whitty throws really ridiculously hard, but if the adrenaline's not going, 107 is brutal. That's
a good point.
More 100, 102. I feel like if the adrenaline's not pumping, which is still just blazing fast.
Okay. Out of all the casinos we have been to for wiffle ball tournaments, which one was your favorite? I think mine, dude, the Pittsburgh one that Davey put things on in was such a nice casino. Oh my God. And then the second one is that Baltimore casino that we've made a habit out of stopping at is an unbelievable casino.
That one's really nice. The first year we went to York for UWIFs, that casino was brand new at the time, only a month old. And all they were giving us it was free drinks. Every game was dollar side bets for everything. We were all making so much money. That was my favorite one, but it's gone downhill very quickly since then. So I'd say the Baltimore one for me.
What's gone downhill about it?
They don't have any of the same deals anymore. They don't give you drinks at the tables. All the side bets are way up now. It's just because it's a casino. It just feels slimy. But that first time it was brand new. Everything the chips were crisp. Nothing was sticky. I was like, this is nice. This is nice.
You're probably winning money. It was the biggest difference maker.
Well, we sure didn't win any games.
So you're not their target audience. They were trying to sucker people in, get them stuck, and be like, yeah, look. Remember that one time we gave you really crisp chips? Don't forget it. Don't forget it. Okay. Let's see. Last question from the Peanut Gallery. Ian asks, when do we expect Dudas and Tim Wilcher to finally make up? And here's what I want to say. My closing remarks are going to say, I really love Tim Wilcher. And he's not going to listen all the way through this. I doubt it. Maybe one of their guys will clip it and send it to him. But I love Tim. And when I started creating my league, his work of a body of work up there has been something that I've modeled, and our player evaluation system has been something that I've kind of asked about, I've asked about theirs and trying to build ours, and I just think he does a heck of a job. Honestly, he's a bit brash and can come off as rude online or whatever, but as soon as you get to know him and you're in person with him, man, I really enjoy Tim Wilcher. So, have you ever had a run-in with him?
I'm trying to think. I feel like I've met him when Leroy brought the riot down for the NWA we hosted. But other than just like a meet and greet, I don't think I've really talked to him more than that. But
he's
no
hilarious.
problems with him. Yeah,
he's hilarious. Doesn't take himself too seriously, and I think sometimes just gets a bad rap because like he's willing to be kind of, like I said, brash on social media, and sometimes those guys, like if you don't actually know them at all.
And if you're not taking yourself seriously, it's like hard to see if they're coming off like that on social media too. You may think they're being, dickheads, but really they're just fucking around. So
yeah. So yeah, Tim, if you're listening, I respect you. I really like you, man. Let's see. Let's wrap this up. So I think that what we should end with, I want you to give me one free agent signing prediction from the elite crop of players. So players valued, we'll go Ollis and up. Okay. And then I want you to give me your non-moonshot title pick for this year. Okay. I'm sure you'll answer that question a ton of times in all the podcasts that you do from here on out. So one elite free agent signing, one non-moonshot title pick.
Elite free agent signing. I'm gonna go because I feel like Ollis might be the biggest game changer with his value. I'm gonna do him. I feel like you're gonna sign him as a shorts. I feel like I could see that happening.
I would love that.
Given that Whitty goes back to the Hounds, because I know if Whitty goes there, you can't do that. Obviously, he's got to be apart from him, but I feel like I could see that happening. And then I'm gonna go with the Hounds, assuming they get Whitty for the title pick. I'm not gonna go against him until any of us can beat him. So
yeah, that's I think
easy answer.
Yeah, the highest coveted free agent might be Ollis. I think. The guys that can afford him, and I wouldn't even be surprised if like Rudy skips right over Aiden, who seems like the perfect pick for him, and just goes down and tries to pair up Ollis and some other 10s or something, or I don't really know how it would work, but because Ollis has that much room in his budget for his ceiling is through the roof, right?
Yeah.
So I look back, his 3-year peak is a 37. Which would put him right up there with the top of the league. So.
And that's with no pitching. Last year was the first year he really ever pitched. He peaked that with just hitting. If his pitching comes around, which I think we all know it can because he's very close. He's very close to getting that just one more strike per at bat to where you're like constantly in like 2-2 counts with him thinking, shit, I got to try to hit this ball. And if it's not close, you're still swinging because he throws that hard. So he's really close.
Right. Ollis is the easy one. I keep getting this gut feeling that everybody's going to run it back. But I'm going to say weirdly, Sprinkle somehow ends up on the Stampede. And I think the Stampede end up winning it all. Like every time I build teams out, I'm like, oh my God, that Stampede team is really good. Mm-hmm. So somehow, I don't know the relationships, how that would work out. I just think maybe the Stampede are willing to move on from either Mitch or Holden. And they go hard after Buck or Sprink. So, Buck or Sprink is going to somehow end up on the Stampede. And it'll leave me scrambling.
Yeah, those 4 pitchers that you mentioned, those are the ones that I'm very intrigued to see if Mitch and Holden still stay together on the Stampede. If they split, then I feel like Sprinkle and Buckman, they'll have to kind of mix in without them. And all that kind of depends on if somebody signs Aiden or not, whether those guys can all kind of stay together, if they all have to split up. So we'll definitely see.
Yeah, imagine Cade going after Aiden, right? He makes Aiden his big-time signing and then follows that right up with, who can he go here? Oh, he could
probably sign like an Ollis or somebody like that.
He can sign Ollis plus. He can go Aiden. He can go an Aiden-Holden combo and then grab a 10, which is going to be
like Thomas or a Bundy that we talked about, with himself being a 10 and then having Dawson possibly as a 5th guy on that team who'd be the best 5th guy on any team in the league.
I think Cade, because he's out on Whitty, has like the most possibilities to build an unbelievably stacked team. Because while DJ and I are kind of fighting over Whitty, I think Cade might be pulling some strings behind the scenes, building a really deep stacked team. So then that leaves like whoever misses out on Whitty between the Hounds and Shorts, like we're stuck. We probably don't have a very deep team, just to be completely honest. So we'll see. I'm excited. Needless to say, this is really exciting. This podcast went long. I think it just goes to show we've got a lot of pent up wiffle ball energy, and we just want to go, man. Any closing comments that you want to make?
No, just ready for the season. It's looking to be a good season for us so far. Just hope the rain stays out. Last year we kind of got boned by the rain in the summer, so I'm hoping we have a nice dry year.
I agree. Let's stay healthy. Let's have a hell of a year, and I really just hope the teams are as even as possible. I want to see more of what happened last year. Just some good battles at the Dirtyard. All right, man. This has been amazing. I really enjoyed this. If you're listening to this, it's probably Mike Whitty's about to sign. So go log into X, Twitter, whatever the case. Make sure you're in the Discord if you're a league member, and let's get this rolling. Let's get really involved and have a great season. Will, it's been a blast.
Yep.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.